Hey, this is Madeline Sklar.
And Suze Cooper, and you're listening to All Things Audio. So I wanted to talk first of all, and very, very old news, but I definitely wanted to cover this. So our last discussion on All Things Audio here on Spaces was on the 14th of December. And on the 16th of December, I woke up to the news that Twitter Spaces was gone. And it was gone. I looked on my app. I looked everywhere for it. I couldn't find it anywhere. We had Morgan giving us kind of updates about, yes, this has disappeared overnight. We're not quite sure where it is. We're not sure if it's coming back. It was very strange. It was a very odd moment. Now, obviously, Spaces came back, but certainly for a few days round there, Madeline, there was a bit of a moment where we wondered whether or not Spaces would reappear.
Well, we've been kind of, playing that out for quite some time, ever since Elon Musk did the official purchase of Twitter, and is like, will it be here tomorrow? Will Spaces still be a feature that he's going to keep? And so it feels like we've been on a roller coaster, right? I mean, I think that'd be the best way to describe it. Lots of ups and downs. But when you had done that tweet, that was back on December 16th. And in the comments of your tweet, Michael DeGroot had shared a tweet from Elon Musk on that same day saying, we're fixing a legacy bug, should be working tomorrow. So it seemed like it was just some kind of issue that kind of cropped up for a lot of people, and then it was fine. But then it was also that whole journalist thing. There was that space going on with the journalists, and they were talking about Elon Musk, and then all of a sudden, Spaces shut down.
Yeah, that's right. And I think, that there was kind of word that Elon was kind of filtering maybe who had access to various features, functions, the app itself, etc. And in doing that, Spaces disappeared. But it did come back. However, it didn't come back with everything that we would have expected. So we had people saying, well, soundboard has gone, clips has gone, captions have disappeared. I mean, I'm looking now, I've got no clips and the captions are still disabled. And I think we're fairly certain, Madeline, that the captions aren't coming back. And I am just gutted about that. I really am.
Same here. We love that Twitter has always been very pro accessibility. I mean, we don't realize it, but there are so many people with disabilities in this world, and they don't want to be excluded from using Twitter. I remember one of my very, very first spaces in Twitter almost 2 years ago. There was a young lady with us, and she was deaf. And she told me, she reached out to me and told me, she goes, I am so thrilled I can be here because of the captions. I know what y'all are talking about. And she tried to participate with us, and it was so amazing. And then, especially because Clubhouse didn't have that. And I thought, wow, so amazing of Twitter. But Twitter has been really big with the alt text and other things for people with disabilities. I'm really surprised that they took that away, and not surprised with something like the clips or the background audio. So like some of these things, not surprised. We know that Elon wants to cut out some of the fluff. He wants to make Twitter run faster. I am kind of bummed that Clips is gone because I was starting to really embrace it. I finally figured out how to make it work for me, and I was starting to use it more and more, and I was really starting to like that as a feature. But taking away captions, I think that was a big mistake.
I mean, I get that. I guess what he's done is he's taken away those elements that are liable to break, that are liable to give problems and issues, and would therefore need some resource and some engineering on them that at the moment he doesn't want to put over there. Fair enough. And also the accessibility team isn't there. It was one of the teams that was cut. So there's no one there to kind of champion the cause and really put forward the reasons why captions are so important and all of that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, when voice tweets first came out and they didn't have captions, it caused a massive row to the point that, I realised that my little me boycotting using voice tweets when I really wanted to use them because they didn't have captions meant nothing to the big guys, but it meant something to me. And actually not having captions on here it's a huge issue. It means, yes, I can get a transcript of this afterwards and I can make sure that that's available for people. But to be able to join in the moment and to see what's going on is truly important for inclusion. And I just don't see how any company at the moment can turn their back on something that is such an inclusive thing. All I can think is it was something he felt could break and could pull the thing down and he wouldn't have the people, the time, the money, whatever, to put onto it to make it work again. It was too much hassle. I don't know. I'd love to think it'd come back, but I really don't think it's gonna.
Yeah, it's just a wait and see kind of thing. At least Spaces works. So I'm happy about that.
True.
Yay, Spaces is here.
We are here.
Right?
We are still here. We're still hanging on. I mean, even the Twitter Spaces Twitter account disappeared over the last couple of weeks as well. People were trying to tag the Twitter Spaces account. It wasn't there. We couldn't see the tweets, the timeline, like historically, it was gone. You know, again, you know, for those of us who have created on Spaces as a platform for the last couple of years now, you know, that's quite a big deal. Like, if this thing's going away, we'd quite like to know. So yeah, I mean, it reappeared, it's come back, just like Spaces came back. It's appeared, it's verified, it's got some tick or other. I mean, you know, the actual manual that you need now to work out which tick means what thing, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it's back. Things keep going away, they keep coming back again. It's a bit odd.
Right. And then you have some Clubhouse news you wanted to talk about.
Yeah. Now, this Clubhouse tweet, I'm literally going to read it and then I'm going to explain why I've included it today. So this is from Alessandro Paluzzi, who's one of our favourite reverse engineers over here on Twitter, who quite often takes screenshots of things that may or may not become a real thing in these different apps, either here on Spaces, he's uncovered stuff before, or over on Clubhouse. And the tweet says, Clubhouse is working on the ability to allow public rooms in houses. And then it says, allowing public rooms would give non-admins the ability to change a room from private to public. It sounds great, Madeline. I cannot get my head round it. And partly it's made me think I am so lost with the glossary needed for Clubhouse right now. So we started out and you wanted to join a club, yeah? You could join a club so that you could then be part of a room that was around that topic, hosted by the people who ran the club or whose admins there were. So we had clubs, we had rooms, made sense. Then we got houses, which were our lovely little niche, private invite-only little places. Now we're talking about having rooms in houses. It's blowing my mind. I think I need a 101.
I'm confused by it all. So hopefully we'll be able to get some clarification. Maybe Michael will be able to take the mic in a little bit and tell us what he knows about it, because I'm definitely confused. I like that they're adding features on Clubhouse, but because I'm not on there very much anymore, I'm not understanding what's going on here with this.
I mean, I think the thing is, going back to the title of our space, what's next for social audio in 2023, I guess I do feel like perhaps these standalone apps, certainly Clubhouse, it's got audience over there. It's got people that are going over there still that are really hooked into what's going on over there. But if they make this too complicated, then they're going to freak people out.
Great point.
I quite like hanging out over there. But even my head just can't get round all of the different things that, and I love the fact they've talked about, Web3 and all the cryptocurrency stuff. And, we've had a little bit of that over here on Spaces. And I'm fairly sure that is what's in the future for social audio in one respect or another. But again, all of this needs to be streamlined so that you and I and everybody else can truly understand what it means and how we access it and what it can do for us. So yeah, I guess I can see these things growing, and I can see them having bigger and better audiences and new ways to monetize and all that exciting stuff in 2023. But I just really hope the platforms think about how they present this stuff to us so that it is accessible for us all.
I agree. I'm on board with that. And then a little bit of Spotify news.
Yep. So Spotify Live, Morgan tweeted out just after Christmas that he'd seen that Spotify Live was about to run out of scheduled rooms. So there was one planned for December the 28th, I think, and then nothing more. Spotify Live definitely is being pared down. We know Spotify have cancelled a lot of shows that were planned to be exclusive over there. What they're actually going to do with it in future, who knows? But I jumped in there just before starting this space here, and there are currently 3 live rooms with about 2 or 3 people in them each, and then one room scheduled for 6 o'clock tomorrow, much like Morgan is showing here. I mean, there definitely seems to be very, very little interest in Spotify Live. And I guess, when you start hearing about them cancelling shows and things like that, creators aren't going to want to go over there and and put all their social audio love into an app that doesn't seem to be getting much love itself from its owners. So yeah, just another kind of wink that Spotify Live is kind of quietly slipping off the radar, it feels.
It sure seems like it. I don't ever hear anybody talking about it. I didn't even know it was still being used.
Well, I went over there to log in over Christmas and see what was going on after I saw Morgan's tweet. And it had logged me out. I guess it had updated or something. So I had to go back in. And even that was a palaver. It took so long for it to log back in. I wondered whether or not there was anything behind the login page. It just green-wheeled at me for about 3 minutes, and then it finally let me in and there was nothing there. So it was a bit of a waste of a wait. But, and it's not the only one. Reddit took away the live audio bar. We spoke about that a little bit with Morgan just before Christmas. And again, those who were creating over there are saying it's made such a difference to discoverability, which was already not great anyway, that now people can't just go into Reddit and see who's live and talking in the moment and join in. Nobody's finding them. So there's no point in creating the social audio content. And I just think it's such a shame. I really think they are missing a trick, all of them.
I agree. I think this has been such a good time for these other platforms to really be pushing social audio. They got it in place, but nobody's talking about it. And if nobody's talking about it, nobody's using it. So I think it's a big missed opportunity, especially with all the chaos that's been going on at Twitter for months.
Yeah, and I don't see any of that dying down anytime soon. And as we keep referring back to, at least this is still here in the semblance that it is at the moment. But yeah, it still seems very fragile over here, I would suggest. I would love to hear what anybody else in the space thinks, though, about social audio this year. What are the big things we think we can expect to see? I kind of feel like Elon had his moment where he could have completely removed this feature. So I don't think it's going anywhere on Twitter anymore. But what it might evolve into or become is another thing. So, interesting to know your thoughts.
So last thing I wanted to mention was several weeks back, I came across a really interesting podcast episode. It's from Dr. Sanjay Gupta. He's one of the medical correspondents on CNN, and he has a podcast called Chasing Life. It's really, really good. It was an interesting conversation about the power of sound. And when I was listening to it, I thought of you, Suze, because, you're just the audio queen. You're all about audio, sonic, everything, all that stuff. And it just made me think of you, but I really thought our listeners would probably find it interesting. So I would just love sometime for our listeners to take a listen and then, come back on here in the future and share your thoughts, grab the mic, share your thoughts, because I would love to see what others think about it, especially you, Suze. I'd like to see what you think about it.
Yeah, what a great idea. Let's all go away and listen to the episode and then have a chat about it next time round.
It's homework.
Oh, I'm well up for homework. Sounds great, especially when it's audio-related homework. This is a podcast, Chasing Life with Sanjay Gupta. And this particular episode about the power of sound, I can't wait. I will definitely be getting that in my ears tomorrow.
That would be awesome.
So come on, where's social audio going in 2023, George? What are your thoughts?
I think that the whole, Elon has talked about spaces several times. Is very clear that he's very high on it. It's a very good platform for him. He's talked about the authenticity factor. He's talked about how cool Spaces is, way cooler than he thought it was going to be. He's been on several very large spaces, and he's not even remotely talking like anybody who thinks that he's going to shut down Spaces. Quite the contrary. He's absolutely high on it. So I don't think there's anything to worry about there. And this other thing about features coming and going, look, let's put some perspective on this. He has taken over a bankrupt company that was hiding it. I don't know if you know this, but they blocked any tweets. Tried to send out some tweets about Twitter being a bankrupt company. They would not let those tweets go through. But anyway, nevertheless, they are, and they were, and They were headed for oblivion, and he took it over, and he is innovating at a very, very high clip. And it's nothing strange. What you're seeing is a startup. You're seeing rapid innovation. You're seeing a takeover company of a failing company with huge amounts of firings. And just because he has eliminated a department does not mean that there's nobody there. Or just because he's gotten rid of engineers in a particular area, like most of the AI people, he took them out because the performance was pathetic. He's got the best AI people in the world from Tesla, and they're over there, and they're redoing it. And he even mentioned that AI, what Twitter had that they were calling AI, isn't even remotely AI. It's basically just some primitive search functions. And the point is that you're going to see a huge amount of features come and go and come and go, and gigantic mistakes being made. The engineers call it stress testing. That's what he'll do. He'll try things, they'll fall apart, they won't work. He'll look, how'd they fall apart? How can we fix it? He'll put it back up again, like verification. So this is all to be expected from a great innovator and entrepreneur.
But this is mainly Twitter as an app as a whole. I mean, really what I'm trying to get to the bottom of is, like, what do we think social audio is going to look like? Whether it's on Twitter, whether it's on Clubhouse, whether it's moving out to other apps, new things that we haven't seen yet. What is there for social audio?
Well, I've been in it for 53 years, so I think I know some of where it's going. Which we used to do it on telephone conference calls and 900 numbers and all sorts of ways. And one of the things, I probably can name a dozen ways things that's going to happen. So customer seminars, I think, are going to be a gigantic thing, because it's word of mouth, and everybody knows that word of mouth is the most powerful thing in all of marketing. It's more powerful than all of the rest of marketing put together. I proved that in my book, Secrets of Word of Mouth Marketing. It's widely acknowledged. I don't think there's any marketer that would dispute it. And this is the perfect word of mouth medium. This is word of mouth. What we're doing right now is word of mouth about social media in general, and Spaces in particular, and Clubhouse in particular. But we are now engaging in word of mouth. We're talking about what's good, what's bad, what we like, what we dislike, what our experiences are, and where it's going to be going in the future. This is what Nicholas Negroponte and MIT called electronic word of mouth. That's what we're doing. We're a bunch of friends sitting in a living room saying, hey, have you tried this new Spaces thing? And we're a little more sophisticated than that. We're beyond that. So that's what we're doing. And what's going to happen is users enthusiasts about a product like Tesla are going to they're going to run Spaces. Imagine 2 or 3 Tesla users like Robert Scoble and some other ones that are Tesla wild enthusiasts who own Teslas, have had them for years, put them through their paces, talking about Tesla. I mean, I've heard Robert Scoble give a tour through the Tesla factory. His car drove into the factory, et cetera, et cetera. And that's going to sell a lot of products. And you can now do it cheaply. When I did it with medical doctors and agriculture, my out-of-pocket expenses were thousands of dollars per group. So I had to charge thousands of dollars per group to do these. Now they're free. There's, the telephone, the cost of a telephone conference call, which we used to do them in, a nationwide, forgot worldwide, a nationwide telephone conference call cost me $300 to $400 for 10 people. So now it's free. So this is a totally different world we're living in. And that's where Spaces is going to go. That's one of the places Spaces is going to go. It's totally untapped. Nobody's doing it. If I were younger, I would do it here and make a few $1 million at it.
What do you think of the other social audio platforms, George? I mean, do you find it interesting that some of these others, they're just not really pushing it anymore? We're not hearing much about it.
I went through 6 versions of my telephone conference system. I was the first one to own a telephone conference system that was outside of AT&T, and I had engineers engineer them for me. And all the engineers, they're not people. So they wanted to put in things like hand raising and muting and stuff like that I never needed. So they wanted to build, and when engineers build social audio systems, they do it all wrong. So I think, for instance, Clubhouse has done a lot wrong. Took them so long to get the mute button, for instance. The interface is terrible. The interface of Spaces is terrible, for that matter. I mean, you still to this day, you can't read people's names. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, I hate that.
If anybody tried to build a telephone conference system for me like that, where I couldn't see people's names, I would literally fire him and get another engineer. That is so bad, such an egregiously wrong thing, that it would tell me this person has no idea what they're doing. So there are a bunch of things like that, even in Spaces. Spaces is incredibly more streamlined, easy to use, in my opinion, than Clubhouse. But I hope Clubhouse stays around. I hope there's competition in the field. You need competition. But another thing that's going to happen with Twitter and Spaces in particular is that people are going to rediscover free speech. It's going to be a little crazy and wild. There'll be a lot of disinformation and misinformation.
I'm not so sure about that with the way that we've seen Elon actually acting, though.
Right.
You know, he's been shutting people down. He shut off the whole of Spaces because he didn't like what he was hearing.
A lot of censoring.
But they were on within hours. And by the way, Spaces was not down for days. It was down for 12 hours. I think 12 and a half hours it was, something like that. It was less than a day. He implied it would be a day or two, but he got it right up.
But he still had a hissy fit, didn't like what somebody said in their free speech, in their opinion, and I'm sorry, but who does that?
Yeah, that was really stupid. That was, look, that I call balls and strikes on Elon, and that was definitely a strike. That was a strikeout, actually. That was really stupid, really bad.
Yeah.
He should not have done it.
But I feel like, George, when he does these stupid things, it drives people away. And I can't tell you how many times I've been so conflicted. Like, I'm over it now. Like, you know what? All I have to do is just stop paying attention to him on Twitter. Because look, the platform, and any platform for that matter, is what you make of it. I have been pushing Twitter as a great marketing tool to help people for many, many years. I've really built up my career over that for quite some years now. But when you're listening to all that just craziness, it kind of just sucks the fun out of it. And it's like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? But I was very worried it was going to go away. It was going to shut down. All these engineers are gone. Is Spaces going to keep working? Does he even like Spaces? And once kind of the smoke cleared, Twitter didn't go away. Spaces did not completely shut down. We know Elon likes it. I had to just kind of get over it. It's like, you know what? If I just stop paying attention to him and a lot of the negativity that goes with it, and a lot of his people that follow him like crazy, that think he's God, if I just cut that out of my experience on Twitter, then Twitter is back to what it's always been for me. And I'm trying, but a lot of people are not doing that. A lot of people hear what he says, see what he's doing, and like, this is not for me. I'm out of here. And you can't blame them. And I mean, I was very close to doing that, but it's like, no, this has always been my favorite platform. I'm going to make it my favorite platform.
But a huge number of people who threatened to leave or did leave came right back because they found Mastodon was terrible and all these other ones were terrible. And the network effect is here. People are here. So they're not going to go so fast. It's going to be very hard for people to go away and start a new network. Essentially, it's going to be very hard. It could be done, and if he screws up badly, they will do it. But I think it's here to stay, and He makes a lot of mistakes.
Well, I'd like to mention Matty's tweet, Madeline, that you've popped up in the Nest around LinkedIn audio. And Matty, if you're around and you'd like to chat about it, then please do request the mic. I did send over an invite, but I'm not sure if anything's working for me today. So, but you've actually said, how about LinkedIn audio? We moved out Social Selling Club to LinkedIn audio and have got a much larger audience there. I mean, I really enjoy LinkedIn audio. I think LinkedIn is a great place for social audio. And Madeline, we've discussed this before. Again, it works because your network is there and you've got your people there that you've already connected with. And then you can further those connections by actually talking to people, which is why Twitter has worked so well for you and I, Madeline. We've spoken to the people that we've followed and who've followed us for years. And it's really made a huge difference to that relationship. But yeah, LinkedIn audio, Madeline. What do we reckon about that one?
Yeah, I'm glad LinkedIn audio is still around. I'm glad that people are using it. I love seeing Maddie's tweet about that's working out for him. I still have my hesitations with it because the fact that there's no replay available, I can't record. I think what's missing with them, I think what's missing with LinkedIn is that, and this applies to a lot of these other social audio platforms, you're going to get people using it when you have the right features that make them want to use it. And look, we all have busy schedules. We all lead our own lives. We cannot be in live rooms all the time. And it seems like whenever there's something in LinkedIn Live Audio, I want to listen to it, but it doesn't work with my schedule. If there was a replay, then I would most definitely be listening to some of these. And then that would get me, no, I would most definitely, George, if some of these, because there are people hosting rooms over there that I'm very interested in hearing what they have to say, but I can't because it doesn't work with my schedule, period, end of story. So it's like, okay, I'm not going to go over there just to go over there. LinkedIn is actually one of those I don't spend very much time on, but if they had replay available, I would be listening to some of these hosts that I'm very interested in hearing what they have to say, which would get me, number one, using LinkedIn way more, rediscovering how great it can be. So then I would start using it more myself. That's what these platforms want. They want for us to use them, right? And to not leave. And then I would be more inclined to be doing something with LinkedIn Live Audio because I'd be like, you know what? What's been holding me back is because I can't find the content I want that works with my schedule when I can show up live. But if I'm able to listen to others, I can hear how great the quality of LinkedIn audio is. And I'm liking the content and I see, oh, I know that person. I know that, like seeing people in these rooms going, these are people that would probably come over to something I'm hosting. I think they're just missing a lot of opportunity by leaving out one feature. It's just one feature.
My prediction is that replay is going to be bigger than live play. Because yes, live play is important for the participation. Of course, you have, nothing beats live participation. But some rooms are going to be very valuable and persistently so. They're going to be evergreen recordings, and people are going to listen to them for years, historic recordings, etc. The replay is going to be bigger than the live play, and it already is in some instances. And when Elon shows up, and he'll get 1.5 million.
Right, he's a perfect example of that because George, we know that when he's live, there might be like I know that advertising one. I think there were like 100,000 people live that time I tuned in for that. But the replay was like 2 million by the next day, which was phenomenal. And it's like if these other platforms don't see the power of recording, especially for evergreen content of these 3 rooms I'm co-hosting each week, this is the only one that's not really evergreen because we talk about news. But the other 2, my Twitter Smarter and the one you and I do on Saturdays where we review Twitter profiles, they're very, very evergreen. And people could go back and listen to something you and I did a year ago, and it would still be relevant today. So I just think there's a lot of missed opportunity.
And also, for the replays, we already know that the replay is much higher than the live listens, right? But also in terms of like monetization and stuff, if there was a vehicle for monetizing, for sponsoring, etc., that replay figure would help in terms of getting that sponsorship, making that money off the back of it. So it's about having that to plug into it in terms of being able to make money from social audio. And that's what everybody's looking for to do, really, with any of this stuff. Whether I'm talking to people about creating podcasts, whether I'm talking to people about social audio, it's all about when can I monetize, how can I get sponsorship, how can I get spot ads in my content, all of that kind of thing, because no one wants to spend all the time creating the audio content for nothing. So I think, with replays there and working, and some kind of mechanism that allows you to monetize that properly through sponsorship deals, etc., that is when it will all come together and work.
Yeah, and think about this, the use of AI. AI will listen to these spaces, do transcripts, search across the transcripts. So you could say to it, give me a space in which they discovered X. They discussed X. And it'll tell you. I've already got search across all my Otter recordings. I record all the Twitter profile recordings in any space that I run. I make an Otter recording. Well, I can search across all those recordings. So I can say, give me all the recordings, not only the recordings, but the sentences in which we discussed problem solving or any topic I want to talk about, any word, any phrase. And it now searches phrases, but AI will search meaning. So you can say, give me all the good spaces, the ones that people reacted to well, etc., on X subject, and it'll give it to you.
Yeah, that's a good point. This technology is just so amazing. It's going to be really cool to see that applied here into social audio, especially for that kind of discoverability. Suze, do you think if LinkedIn Audio adds recordings to it as a feature, do you feel like it will rival Spaces and Clubhouse? I think it would.
Yeah, I think it would. We started over here on Spaces wanting recording, but not having it, and figuring out our own ways of doing it and using it anyway.
Like, hello, podcast. It's like, let's just make it a podcast. We don't need a record button. We'll just record it ourselves.
Exactly. But, they hit this critical mass, and Spaces team was very reactive to what they were hearing. And, it appeared, recording appeared, it was always on the cards, it was on the roadmap. They brought it forward, whatever they did with it, and we have it. I wonder whether or not there's still not that critical mass of people using it over on LinkedIn, partly because they probably don't even know it's there, because they've not done a fantastic job of telling people that it's there or how to use it. And I wonder if that's the reason why they're not investing in adding in these extra features for people. I mean, the rollout on it was absolutely diabolically slow. It's a rollout, but you're going to wait 6 months before your profile can get it, even though everybody's supposed to have access to it. It's, they've been so slow on it that I think people have kind of forgotten about it or feel like it was something that came and went away, or so people aren't using it, so they're not going to invest in it. And I feel like they're not going to put that recording in place until people are really shouting about it, like we were over here on Twitter.
See, Michael's here. Hey, Michael.
Hello, friends. Good to see you. I was on the move earlier, so I wasn't able to come to the stage until now, but I'm home now and all connected and ready to go, ready to speak about Clubhouse.
Yes.
I can answer some of your questions.
Tell us about Clubhouse.
Okay, so Clubhouse is in a transition period. They have been for several months now. Part of it's because they're going over to a new code base, which can integrate into the Web3 stuff and having token-gated houses. And they are working on subscription houses for monetizing those communities and so on. And so what they've needed to do is sort of slowly turn the ship in a different direction while still maintaining a lot of the same feature sets of rooms and stage and audience and yada, yada, yada. And so that has meant sort of focusing a lot on houses as opposed to clubs. And yes, we are seeing a lot of things that clubs have had being integrated into houses, but in a little bit different way, because they've, I think, learned some things from clubs and ways to improve the experience, but also because they're trying to migrate these things over to a new code base. So all that being said, yes, they are working on a way, and it should be released, I think, this week or maybe next week, on opening up a house room that's typically been private, just inside of a house, to the public so that a house can get more exposure and potentially bring additional members of the community in. Now, clubs have been able to do this for a while. And I suspect, if I was to make a prediction for 2023, that Clubhouse is going to continue to sort of make houses the thing, where clubs have been the thing, and we're going to see houses get more and more things and features that clubs have had. For example, one more example, then I'll land my plane, as we say on Clubhouse. Houses have not had the ability to record rooms. They have been a social type of room where anybody can join the stage at any time just by unmuting. They've all been non-replayable, non-recorded, but they have indicated just this week in town halls that they are looking at ways that they can enable recordings in house rooms. So I have a feeling what we're going to see is that everything that clubs were, recording rooms and all that sort of stuff, is going to be moved over to houses. We'll see if clubs stay or what they look like going forward, but I think we're going to continue to see this transition period over 2023. Hopefully that clarifies some things, but I can answer your questions if you want.
I'm glad that you said that houses and clubs are very similar, because it felt like they're kind of repeating themselves, and I can't quite define what makes one different from another anymore.
Yeah, and it's been funny because there has been some backlash from people on Clubhouse, users on Clubhouse, who are like, why do we have houses? Why are they de-emphasizing clubs? Clubhouse was built on clubs. And there have been houses that have been created because people can create up to 5 a week, that have been like anti-house houses. And it's been a little bit amusing, actually. But I think what I'm having, and I hope a lot of other people on Clubhouse can have, is a lot of patience and just sort of stick with the platform and the people who are leading the platform. We have Joe in the audience here, who's one of the staff members there, and I think if people are just patient with Clubhouse, the organization, that they will find that Clubhouse, the experience of being a member of that community and all the different houses and so on, will end up paying off literally and figuratively in the future. I really do think that for social audio in general, but specifically Clubhouse, monetization is going to become a real thing finally. Clubhouse is working on it. They've been having discussions. They've already had a couple of public forums and some other private conversations with the Clubhouse community. They are working on subscription houses right now, and who knows where else things go. But I think it's a pretty safe bet to say monetization is coming to Clubhouse in 2023, and probably also Twitter Spaces.
Agreed. Michael, what's the difference between a club and a private, a room run by a club and a house that's public?
Okay, so just a little bit of Clubhouse 101. There are clubs and there are houses. Clubs are what Clubhouse first had. Actually, before clubs even existed, there was just one room, and then they had more rooms, and then they added clubs, and that's when I came into the picture. So I don't know a whole lot of the history of pre-clubs, but clubs are typically a public sort of facing grouping, organization, or whatever of various rooms and replays and community that can be private. There are private clubs. You cannot record in those private rooms. And so there are some communities that built themselves to be private, and Clubhouse is actually built in a way to transition those clubs over to a house if they want to. Speaking of houses have been built so far to be a more private area of Clubhouse where the house founder or administrators can invite people into the house, or people can join a wait list and they can be let into the house. And those rooms have all been non-replayable social type rooms, again, where you can just, if you come into the room, you can unmute and join the stage and chime in on the conversation. You don't need to be allowed on stage by a moderator. You just jump into the conversation. Those rooms are not replayable. One thing that is a key factor that's a difference between houses and clubs is that houses have the house chat. And that is basically a bulletin board or a chat area where people can post messages, images. They can reply to them with text. Right now, they can also react to them with various emoji. And so that's something that clubs do not have. Clubs have no sort of public-facing chat, bulletin board, or anything like that. So right now, clubs are sort of meant to be a more public-facing thing where you can record the rooms, they're replayable, they show up on people's profiles, and houses are a more private space where people have, closer conversations and build community away from sort of public view. There's a few other little differences between them, but I'd say that's the high touch points.
Wow. Madeline, I don't know that we got to the bottom of where social audio is going in 2023, but perhaps it will take us all of 2023 to work that out, right?
It might. It'll be interesting to see what LinkedIn Live Audio does and if they will add a record feature. I think it would be huge. It would definitely get me using it more. But otherwise, Spaces is for me. I'm glad it's still here. I'm glad Elon Musk likes it. So I think we still have a long future being here week to week and using this as a way to share information and build community. Thank you to all of our speakers who came on and shared so much great stuff. And we're available in all of your favorite podcast apps. We're out there, All Things Audio. You can also go to allthingsaudiopodcast.com as well.
You certainly can. And you can catch us here on Twitter and use the hashtag AllThingsAudio, and we'll pick that up throughout the week. So that's it for this week. But thank you so much to everyone that's been here in the space with us and those of you listening. And we'll catch up with you next week.
Bye, everybody.